So I'm talking to Michael Roderick right now, and I've come to realize after my first conversation that Michael is a rock star in the area of thought leadership and getting your brand and your expertise and your knowledge referable, you becoming a referable brand, not only as an organization, but as a person, as a thought leader. Michael, I don't know if I would serve up a good introduction as to who you are and what you do. And there is a lawnmower in the background, so I will kind of back out my audio here. Actually, question one is sort of like, who are you, Michael, and what are you
Sure.
getting an awful lot of traction on right now? You could go to almost anywhere and hear, Michael talk or people who refer Michael. Who are you, and what is it that you're doing right now?
Sure. So my work is mainly in helping thoughtful givers become thought leaders. Usually, people who are very good at serving or very good at helping their audiences, they tend to be the most likely to deprioritize packaging their intellectual property. So I sort of jump in as a mix between Malcolm Gladwell and Don Draper for these people, right? Look at the psychology behind it. Look at how do we make this kind of snappy and interesting. And my background, I started out as a high school English teacher, went from being a high school English teacher to a Broadway producer in under 2 years. So I always kind of bring that concept of Broadway to the process, right? So I asked myself, if your idea or if your business was a Broadway show, would anybody buy a ticket? And that's mainly the work that I do these days. That's mainly the stuff that I speak about. This idea of referability, creating a referable brand. But that's the really like 30,000 foot view, if you will.
That's excellent. That's good to know. Now, just as a quick drive-by question here, at this point in time, Michael, how much of that is social media? And I've got to thumb on the scale a little bit here these days for LinkedIn. How much of that is social media? And how much of that is, I would say almost, I want to say, I don't want to use the word traditional, but more like digital marketing stuff like emails and newsletters and stuff like that. What are your thoughts on that?
So the way I look at it is that social media is like the outside, and your email list is your home. Right. So if I come into your inbox, then I am in your home, and it's a very, very different, very special kind of relationship. Whereas with social, there's tons of other people speaking, there's tons of other things happening. So really, what I do when I look at my ideas and sort of putting my stuff out there is I write a daily email, and I use that as a testing ground for content. So I actually look at what things really resonate, what things really hit. And if there's something that really hits, if there's something that I think is very solid, I'll actually use that on social media. So I'll make a post about that particular topic, or I'll write an article or something of that nature. And it's always driving people back to the mailing list. It's always working on bringing people into that world more so. And I think like there's tons of people out there who do a wonderful job on social media and love to be just sort of out and in front of people all the time. But I'm actually much more interested in that like intimate relationship that you develop once you have a mailing list. So most of the time, that's really where I focus my time and attention, and use social as a booster and a way to kind of bring new people into the fold.
How has we're a year into COVID. We're a year into whatever, work from home, whatever. Vaccinations are now available, but we're you know what I mean? We're sort of
Yeah.
a year into this science fiction mini series that we're trying to deal with here. How has all this impacted you and what you do?
Yeah. So, in many, many cases, a lot of my conversations were in person, right? I was doing a lot of workshops. I was doing a lot of in-person gatherings. I was hosting a lot of dinners, just all of these things. And obviously that kind of went out the window, right? There isn't that aspect of sort of bringing people together in that context. So for me, I just looked at this as, from the standpoint of, if I don't have that channel, if I don't have that model, that way of doing things, how can I do it a different way? So I have hosted a lot of virtual gatherings. I've spent a good amount of time basically bringing people together virtually as much as as much as I can, and basically just seeing like how can I help them also help each other. I think that a lot of the time what tends to happen is that we get into these scenarios where it's like we put a gathering together or we put something together, and then I think the mistake, we put the focus on us and we're just like, hey, look at my thing, here's my here's my stuff. And so often we can make so much more happen by basically being like, okay, here's a bunch of really great people, I'm just going to get you guys together, get you into some conversations, give you some things to talk about, and I'm going to kind of step back and just kind of let you do your thing. And that has been a big factor in all of this, just basically saying like, who hasn't had a chance to meet each other, who feels kind of frustrated and alone right now and is looking for something to go to. So I've done a lot of hosting as a result of that.
And just to wrap up here, question I typically ask my guests at the end of the each program is, what lessons have we learned that we must not forget? I feel now, especially a year into this, that everybody's in such a big hurry to get back to normal, to whatever that, however we define that these days. But in your mind, what lessons have we learned over this past year that we can't really afford to forget going forward?
Yeah, I the joke I make is that we're all the BBC dad now. So you remember that video that came out where he was like, doing the interview and the kids come in the background and the wife comes in and pulls them out, and we all laughed hysterically at that and said, "Oh man, that," and we all have had some version of that at
Yep.
this point. And I think that if anything, it should remind us that we need to be human with each other. I
Mm.
think it's so easy to forget that people are people and they're living their lives and that there are going to be challenges, there are going to be issues. So if anything, that I hope that we carry over that sense of empathy so that we don't go back to this
Mm.
aspect of, well, if you're not, if your room is not perfect, you're not professional, and like all these things, because
Yeah.
I really think this period has really helped us be a little more human with each other,
Right.
and I'd love to see that continue.
Michael, it's been good getting to know you, and now that I know you're a super huge rock star, maybe I'll have you on as a guest again in the future.
That would be wonderful. Thank you so much for having me.
Have a good one.
You too.